Hello and welcome to the 14 Going on 41 podcast. I'm Arvind, the crazy 41-year-old part of this duo. And joining me is my lovely co-host, the Gen Z speaking, the world schooling, the bad at mathin', the ocean loving, the now podcasting, Kiara Arana.
Hello, Arvind. Actually, for this episode, I think I'm going to call you my co-pilot instead of my co-host. Do you get it?
I see what you did there. This episode's all about taking to the skies.
Yeah, and this podcast is about a 14-year-old who went missing from school and a 41-year-old who was a consultant, turned sports presenter, turned sports tech exec, now turned podcaster. And they both have come together to interview guests about their road less traveled.
That's true. It's almost like a mature, I must say, Kiara, you're quite mature, a mature 14-year-old who's very well spoken, and a not so mature, irreverent Gen X millennial hybrid coming in and just talking to people about their fork in the road moments.
One sec. Arvind, you said Gen X / millennial.
That's right.
I thought you were a boomer. Sorry, continue.
As if I didn't feel old enough already with a 14-year-old on my podcast.
Well, it's just, you just seem so wise for your age. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Nice attempt at a save, Kiara. But no, it's maybe because I went to school. Some people actually did that in life, where I learned things like calculus and I learned about the Bernoulli principle.
You make fun of kids my age's names. I don't think you have the right to, because Bernoulli was the name of your principal, seriously?
No. Bernoulli was not my principal. Bernoulli was a 1700 mathematician from Switzerland. But he came up with this cool concept of fluid dynamics and how objects actually move and how you can actually get a plane to fly and the like, which is pretty cool. I learned all the theory. I have no idea how to apply it. But I think it's apt for today because our guest both metaphorically and literally is taking flight because he builds drones for a living.
Wow. Before this episode, I really thought that drones were just something used for cool sunset pictures for Instagram, you know?
That's right. But research would have taught you it does so much more, right? It can save lives. It's used in disaster recovery. And Rahul Singh, who we're getting on, is actually saving lives with what he's doing with his drones.
Yeah, I had no idea the drones did that much.
Yeah. It's not just about droning on and on.
Drones like most adults do.
Not most adults. Might just be some adults that are in your life, but we shall not name them. But drones are pretty cool. And it's not just about photos. It's not just about pictures. It's actually about having real impact. And Rahul does all of that at ideaForge.
I can't wait to learn from him.
But before we learn from him, and before we get him on, I'd love to learn from you.
Yeah. Is it time for our Gen Z word of the day? That's right. Today's word is no cap.
No cap.
Yeah.
Can you use it in a sentence?
That drone is saving lives. No cap.
Okay. What is the country of origin?
This isn't a spelling bee, Arvind, then probably America.
Okay, fair enough. Most things come from America unless it's manufactured and it comes from some other country, I think. We shall not name that. But no cap. That drone is saving lives. No cap. Okay. I have two hypotheses. One is a cap is like something you put on a bottle. And so a cap kind of puts a limit to things. So no cap is no limit, unlimited potential. So this drone is saving like limitless lives, like it's doing an amazing job. The other, which might be cooler if it's true, is, caps are things people wear to look cool. And so a drone without a cap is kind of really uncool. It's not like, it's not hip. It's just like a boring drone without a cap.
Your second statement was way off. Your first was also not quite there, but so basically, cap means lie. So if I say no cap, I'm being for real.
For reals. Okay, for reals. Okay. So no cap means no lies.
Yeah.
Okay. So this drone is saving life for reals. Like this podcast is awesome. No cap. Does that work?
When I teach you my Gen Z word of the day, it's really so that you can understand when people my age are talking. It's not for you to use the word. So please don't use the words I'm using.
That's too late. That drone has flown. No cap.
No. We need to cap this intro and actually get our guest on as soon as possible.
Okay, well then let's get him on. Our guest coming on after this is Rahul Singh. Don't worry, he doesn't sing.
Okay, and you shouldn't either. Today, we're joined by someone who was a co founder in one of India's top drone companies, ideaForge, a graduate from IIT Bombay, a winner of the Marico Innovation Foundation Award and IIT Bombay's Young Alumnus Achiever Award, and whose company had a very successful debut in the stock market. Please welcome Rahul Singh.
Thank you, Kiara. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
I mean, that's an amazing list of accomplishments, but we don't have enough time to go through all of your lists, right? You have patents. Your companies did like more than $500 million IPO. You've always been this tech wizard at some level who's followed your passion. But on this show, I think one of the things we love to talk about are those fork in the road moments. And I was fortunate to know you when you were going through one of those, right? And that was graduating from IIT, landing a job at Lehman Brothers, nice, well-paying job, and then you decided to go your own path. So I think we're going to dive into that quite a bit.
But before we get into the fork in the road moments, which is what this show is all about, I had a question for you, which is, when you were 14, what did you see yourself doing? What did you dream of doing?
So as a kid, I was hooked on to the National Geographic and Discovery channels, which were my favorite go-to things to feed on to the curiosity I had. Those were the window to the wider world, which I couldn't see in person. And at some level, I had thought that what being a scientist or an explorer feels like or means. I didn't really know anything about it, but probably I did find it fascinating for being those people who were part of those shows, exploring the world beyond what I could see. So that was something which was part of my aspiration in some level.
You clearly watched better shows than I did because I was like MTV, Star Sports, some cartoon. So my parents would have definitely appreciated your viewing choices better than mine. But it wasn't just watching shows, right? You were also tinkering around at a young age, I recall from our conversations.
Yeah, so as a kid, I would not necessarily be following conventional ways of going out and playing a standard sport. Always, I'd sort of just go out and explore, climb trees, collect firewood from these trees, go to a corner and set up a small fire, in the process get all dirty, and everyone thought that this is like the most useless way to spend time.
You would have survived in prehistoric times. It feels like it's a setup for that.
I think that shows that you were unconventional and unique right from the start. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's not a conscious choice you make.
Yeah.
It's just something that you get, follow your heart and interest probably.
But it's also, I think, courage to go against the norm, because even if that's in your interest, I know a lot of kids, I growing up was like, oh, that's not what the kids around me are doing. And you feel this peer pressure to say, let me follow the herd. Yeah. Because if you're not talking about some other reference, or if you are not playing with the kids, some kids will think you're weird, or some will just not hang out with you. And then you just kind of feel like, I just need to fit in. So you never really felt that. You were happy to kind of march to the beat of your own drum.
Yeah, and now that I'm a father, I reflect on some of these aspects that, is it something which was my achievement, or because me or no kid is born with the concept of being conscious about what other people think, or what is the right thing, or what is the thing to do. It is things that we pick up as we grow as kids, by the influence around us. So in some ways, either my parents or the environment that I grew up in probably did not influence me to be so concerned about following conventional choices. And that's something which is something which can apply to anyone. And I'm trying to see how does that apply to my daughter as she grows up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How did your parents feel when these unconventional choices led to you almost short-circuiting your house?
I look back and I'm surprised at the level of tolerance they had for things that I did.
So what did you do to almost burn down the house, or not burn down the house, but...
Yeah, so I look back and see that curiosity does not need for you to really know how to do things. You just make mistakes and discover. So the simplest example of that was, I was curious how a light bulb works, right? I had a broad concept that electricity goes in there and there's light, right? And I had a broad concept that for the electricity to go in there, there are two terminals. Usually every plug point will have two connections. So I had to somehow get those two connections to the bulb without a holder. So I took a wire and I had to figure out where to fix it on the bulb. The most prominent part were these two pins coming on the side. I thought these must be the right place to put it. I connected those wires to those two pins coming out and put it into a socket. And I essentially short circuited the whole thing only to realize this is not the right place where the connection happens. It's somewhere else.
Giving a whole new meaning to the phrase "a light bulb moment."
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I know you've done a bunch of these things. We were in college together, so I'm just going to forward ahead to that time. You were always the guy who actually tried to learn the concepts when the rest of us were, how do I get decent marks and minimum effort, maximum grade. You were like actually maximum learning and everything else doesn't matter. But at the end of that, you still sat through placement interviews. You got a job at Lehman Brothers, which was just coming on campus for the first time. Very lucrative job. Maybe 20 people from our batch took it. We're kids out of college and we're trying to figure out how to make a living. You said no and said, I'll actually do this drone company of my own with no financial security or anything else. What was that like as you were making this decision for you?
So I think the part which sort of really made the decision super clear to me was something which I had not realized before that. I always was curious, tried things on my own. But then you realize that as an individual, you can do great things. But if you can find the right people to sort of go back and forth and try to create things, you can sort of create superhuman things, super great things. So I found a bunch of people who were similarly curious, and they were playing around with things, and they were, for them as well, creating things, and gaining value out of creating things was very important. So I found my co-founders before graduating, and at the time of graduation, I sat through campus, got this job, but I realized this value of these people that I know at this moment. There's no defined way to bring this back together at any future moment with certainty. So it is this which is more unique than any other option that I have. And I have to try this out right now because this feels special, what we can do by coming together and creating something. So more than anything else, it was the people that I found there who I thought would sort of help me or collectively will do things bigger than what I could do individually.
It's really cool. Yeah. It's really cool. And just before you get to your question, Kiara, I hope you realize the repercussions of your decision because you didn't join Lehman Brothers and they went bankrupt 2 years later. So, you just had a huge impact on the entire subprime market collapsing, Rahul.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Why drones? What made you choose drones?
So my assumption is just flying things have been things which have fascinated people forever, right? Even before humans got to know how to fly, just seeing birds flying was fascinating. And eventually that led people to figure out how to fly. So it was one of the areas that we were very curious about. And as a student at IIT Bombay, most summer vacations, I'll not go home, hang around the campus, just explore the campus, not necessarily do something for the sake of doing it. But on one side, I'll just explore the wilderness that the campus represents. When everyone is gone, it's just like a monsoon rainforest sort of a thing. So just hanging out there, exploring and experiencing it is brilliant. And in fact, just last weekend, I was there with a bunch of friends and it was as fascinating as it was 20 years ago, just to walk around these rainforest feeling corners of the campus. But on the other side, I would sort of just tinker around with things. As I got into IIT Bombay, you get into different streams based on what rank you get. And both of us got into mechanical engineering, but I always had this corner for the aerospace engineering. As a school student, I tried to put a foam model together by sort of hand carving it into a shape which I thought is the shape of an airplane. by hand carving an airfoil shape, and only to show it to my uncle and getting this feedback that the airfoil was upside down. Rather than making it go up, that shape will make it go down.
I think some plane companies have those engineers right now based on the news you read about certain flights. But anyway.
So there was a natural affinity to make things fly. IIT Bombay, you're not supposed to have engine-driven vehicles owned by students, right? For eco-friendliness and pollution and traffic and things like that. So years before us, a lot of people used to have these motorbikes, and then they were just scrapped and dumped in one corner of the campus. They were just rotting there like metal scrap. And I thought, all of them have an engine. That engine would not have sort of gone bad. Could you revive it and you do something useful out of it? And the thought was, could we take that engine, make it run, and make a hovercraft and float on Powai Lake? So that was the thought we had, just to tinker around one summer.
It's amazing how that mind works, right? Like most people are like, oh, there's a bike with an engine. Can I ride it and go somewhere? And like your mind is like, oh yeah, it's only natural to build a hovercraft, right? Because that's what people do.
So we tried a bunch of things, floated around small prototypes, and only to realize that getting off the surface is even cooler. So just floating on the surface is great, but if you could get off the surface, and that sort of one thing led to the other. Early 2003, 2004 is when we started experimenting with drones. At that time, that concept wasn't known to anyone. Nothing was available. So again, we had to hand carve things and make, break, figure out what happens. We never did it with the intent of converting it into a business. It was just something we wanted to try, explore, and see where it goes. It wasn't up till 2008 or something that we actually said, oh, what we're doing is pretty good compared to what people globally are doing. Why not make it our profession as the central part of what we're doing? That's when we sort of formally started to do drones as part of a business.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 2007 when the company took launch.
It was.
But just going back to your parents, what was their reaction when you turned down the job at Lehman Brothers to then start your own business?
Surprisingly consistent, similar to how I short-circuited the home. Tolerant.
So they took out another policy for the house. They got an insurance policy for you.
Yeah. No, I don't know how did I earn that much level of tolerance from my parents. Maybe I showed genuineness in the things that I did, and they saw that genuineness and never sort of doubted the intent behind it, that it is for things beyond what I intend to do. So be it short-circuiting the house, getting into startup mode, or getting into a major accident I had, everything was like that they didn't like it, they were concerned about me, but they were broadly tolerant to whatever happened, and I had the space to figure out and take the next steps.
Were you by chance a younger child?
I was.
It's a bit of a theme.
I am.
I think we see a bit of a theme, but I think it's funny when we've been doing preparation for all these conversations. Kiara and I have gone back and forth, and there are some folks I know for a while and she doesn't. And she's like, how do you describe these people? How do you think about various folks? And what do you expect from each of these conversations? And every time I talk about Rahul, the one word that comes to my mind is authentic and mission-driven, right? Which I think really stands out. I think I've told you this before, but when I was applying to business school, there's a question that is, what matters most to you and why? And I went down this entire path of following your own passion, etc. And I gave an example of my mom. I gave some examples from fiction. I talked about Remy from Ratatouille. But the only other person from real life, no cap, that made it in that list was you. Because it was your story, which I thought was amazing, right? You turned down stuff, you did what you loved, and you've always believed in that. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me this. So you're doing this, you've gotten to this drone company, you're living your dream at some level. And at the same time, it wasn't easy. Right? It's not like you IPO'd on day one. I think there were times the company almost went bankrupt. It wasn't plain sailing. How did you handle those? And what did that bring up questions of what have I done?
Not to the level that what have I done, but now looking back, I relate to a few experiences I've heard from other people as well. Like a lot of successful entrepreneurs have said that they might not have gone down the path of trying out what they did if they knew how hard it is going to be. So when you start, you don't really necessarily know all the challenges you'll face. And that makes you optimistic enough to be able to continue doing it. Similarly, we never anticipated it to be as long and hard a journey as it turned out to be. And the second part is another thing people reflect on: enjoy the journey rather than destination. So while climbing Everest is a great motivation, but if you can't enjoy the journey of getting there, it'll be very taxing effort to get there. So I think we enjoyed the journey. We always enjoyed the whole process of, as a company tagline, we have two words: create, inspire. So we enjoy the process of creation. And in the process, if we can create inspiration for ourselves or anyone else, that's what really matters. At times I talk things like this, and some of my team members would say, but we also need to generate business.
That's why I'm on the technical side, not on the sales. But I've been reading a lot on Mahabharata, etc. recently, and there's this entire piece of doing something not for the outcomes and not doing it for the fruits of the labor, but for the love of labor itself, which sounds like you're doing exactly. And when you talked about that entrepreneurship journey and like, you don't know how hard it is, I can relate to a lot of advice I got when I was getting married, because people said it's all romantic, it's all great, but it's hard work. But I've never faced that because my wife is amazing and listens to this podcast. So I have to say this, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said create and inspire. You've been creating things. You're very inspiring. What's the coolest thing you feel like you've ever invented?
Coolest thing? No, that's a high bar.
I've got a low bar. Kiara has a high bar. So like you land somewhere in the middle with your answer.
So I as a individual, I'm a very conservative person in terms of claiming what we have done. So I'll always have this feel that what we've done is still a fraction of what can be done. So I think, and I'm amazed by the outcome of what ends up coming out. So while flying, and the whole process of flight is driven by physics, but it almost feels unreal. It's like you can't see air, and being able to be on that almost seems magical. There's physics and science there, but it's almost magical, right? At times I am on this flight looking out the window, and I often imagine what the drones we make may be experiencing, feeling, seeing, and like it's almost like a magic carpet moment kind of a thing.
Wow.
So yeah, just that feeling for me is a very cool feeling, being able to make things fly. Anytime something flies, I'm still doubtful. What can go wrong? What can go wrong? Will it come down because of some mistake we did somewhere? And when it flies for hours and hours. So for example, these days, our drones fly, a drone takes off every 3 minutes somewhere in the world. And
Is that right?
Yeah, so that feels pretty cool and satisfying, that what we did, right now I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah.
But what we did is taking off every 3 minutes and doing something important, something cool for someone. That feels satisfying. That feels cool. And hopefully those missions are important because either they're being used by the soldiers or someone to save lives or increase productivity. So
can you talk a bit more? I've been blown away by the stories of floods and the use for rescue missions, like your drones, like something you have created has actually gone out and saved lives.
Yeah, so for example, today potentially drones can be fit into any nature of conversation or job that has to happen, right? From entertainment industry to wars to any kind of other jobs that industries are doing. So one of the cool things that we thought the country decided to do was mapping all villages in the country. You can see them on satellites, but the villagers till recently did not have a very accurate record of the land that they owned. And now that leads to a lot of manipulation and the poor in the villages sort of being manipulated by things that they can't defend. And the government decided to map all. I didn't know India has about more than 500,000 villages. So mapping all those 500,000 villages in the country and creating digital maps for each one to know that, oh, I can take a Google map or a GPS device and go verify my land is correct or not. So that was cool. And a lot of our drones got used by the government agencies to do something like that. When it comes to search and rescue, when a flood or earthquake or forest fire and things like that happen, a lot of the ground infrastructure gets destroyed. Accessibility becomes difficult. So even though you can help, but who to help, where to help, starts becoming a challenge. So a drone being in air and being able to scout a large area and see where are people stranded, where do we need to sort of provide that help, makes those efforts far more effective than not knowing that part just by having a ground's eye view kind of a thing. So there are layers and stories around this, but these are a few of the examples I could highlight.
That I think brings me to the next part of where do you go next, right? Because a lot of people feel like the IPO is the milestone, right? I was like, oh, IPO ho gaya, chalo, like now let's celebrate and the journey is done. But I've never heard that once from you. If anything, I've heard about what you're thinking about for the next 10 years. And so what is the next 10 years?
No. I think how you put it is very, very relevant and true. And for example, I'm assuming for Kiara, the relevance of IPO may not even be as important, right? It's just a construct that modern businesses bring about in terms of saying what it means. And it definitely means a lot because it helps general investors participate in the work that we're doing. But the next 10 years are far beyond that. And we believe in something simple. Electric aerial mobility or electric aerial autonomous platforms are an inevitability for the future. It's not a matter of if, but when that future will happen. And all of our effort is to help accelerate that future as early as possible. It's the same thing as autonomous cars. I do strongly believe that autonomous cars are an inevitability for the future.
Are they called autonomous because there's an auto in front of it? Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a version of autonomous that you could create a brand around in
autonomous
India.
Autos. If someone's listening, guys, you can pay us the royalty right now for this idea.
Yeah.
But you were saying.
Yeah, so I think the future is going to see a lot more of these smart flying vehicles. They would be doing variety of things from just keeping an eye out, maintaining things around us. And they'll become so prevalent that I think when technology reaches its pinnacle, it becomes boring. You don't notice it. It is just there because you see it every day. You're not necessarily surprised by it. So that's the next 10 years. And what we call air taxis sounds like a futuristic idea today, will be just another form of transportation, hopefully in the next 10 years.
So you're building the next flying car. I look at the Jetsons, which I used to watch as a cartoon. You're making that real.
That's part of our roadmap, the long-term roadmap. Wow. So we would get there eventually, yeah.
I think this might be a good way for us to break.
Because our next game's pretty futuristic it's Back to the Future. We play a game next.
Oh, okay.
It's called our 14 going on 41 What If game.
Okay.
But before we go into the game, I have one last question.
Sure.
I don't know if Arvind really wants me to bring this up or not, but I've heard stories.
It's usually not a good thing.
I've heard stories of something about you two wrestling in college.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about that.
For people who can't see this, Rahul is like a foot taller than me and significantly stronger. But I will say I did not lose that fight. But I don't know. Maybe you can describe it.
So thanks for putting the context because that's important for my narrative as well. What Arvind represents is this immense mission-driven fighting spirit backed by being brilliant and a lot of things he is. But the fighting spirit, people say the strength is not the physical strength, but the mental strength that you have. And I think he exemplified and embodies that all the time. And that small physical tussle that started as something we thought we're just pushing each other around, and he did not give up. He did not back up, and it just kept on escalating and escalating and escalating. Was it where I tried to throw you or dump you into a dustbin or something?
It's possible, but I might have resisted. I think tenacity is my thing. You're right. I'm like a Wolverine type, who has no strength, doesn't know any better, but kind of fights. But the issue is I used to do all of these competitions, and my trademark thing was doing this rock imitation, right? I would be like the wrestler, The Rock. Finally, The Rock has come back. And I started to believe like I was that personality. And Rahul's actually built more like The Rock than I am. So, yeah, I think he took it easy on me. So your kindness is appreciated.
That was a nice change for you just now, Arvind. Someone was finally praising you on the podcast. I'm sorry, but I tend to roast you a little bit.
You need that. You need to put that in place. And that's very kind of you to say, Rahul. I think if you ever redid my episode, it'd be what if you and Rahul's fight had escalated? And then life might be different. But we'll be back after this to play the real what if game with you, Rahul.
Looking forward.
And we're back, and it's time to play the 14 going on 41 what if game, which is essentially we're going back to those fork in the road moments again, which is what this podcast is all about. And then if we're going to be asking you what if questions, what if certain things in your life had gone in a different direction? How do you think you would see your life today? So I'm going to start us off with the first question, which is what if you could time travel to when you were 14 years old? What advice would you give to your 14-year-old self?
Interesting. So possibly one advice I'd give is to play more. I think I wanted to be better and more active at sports than I was. So I think that's the time to really, really make the most of it. Second, because even today I'm talking about some of the crazy experiments and curiosity-driven things that I did. I would tell my 14-year-old self that do more of this. You can't do enough, so keep doing more of this.
He talks about sport. Rahul was actually goalkeeper for our institute football team. So he got into sport a little later.
Ooh. Yeah, I think that's great advice, even for me as a 14-year-old now. My next what if question is, what if you had taken the finance job at Lehman Brothers? How do you think your life would have turned out?
Yeah. So that's an interesting what if, because when I started my entrepreneurship journey, I had a what if, because when you're starting off anything, there's what if things don't work out? What if we as team don't make it work properly? So I had some thoughts, backup thoughts kind of a thing. And let's say if I would have gotten here, I remember a conversation I had with my elder brother that what if it doesn't work out? What if I end up doing that? I think the part that has stayed with me all these years is he asked me that, has the path taken by you till now identical to anyone else? And if I looked close enough, I couldn't say that it was identical to anyone. So he said, if your path till now has been unique, whatever you do, you'll create a unique path for yourself. So I think even if I would have ended up in a finance job, I would have tried to use my curiosity and my approach to hopefully do something exciting and entertaining that would have engaged me and kept me excited.
You've come up with new financial instruments would have prevented the subprime crisis. I'm telling you, underestimate your impact. My what if's a little different. So let's leave out Lehman Brothers. Let's assume the drone industry never took flight, or for whatever reason, that part was off the table. What if all of this happened? What would you be doing instead with your life right now?
So again, similar to previous question, the what if around the time I had to figure out what to do post IIT. One of the what if alternatives was just trying to go do oil and gas exploration, because that represented adventure, being out there. As a kid, I thought I'll never do a job where I have to sit and do the job. I wanted to do something where I can just go out there and be on the feet and explore things. So that was a very serious what if alternate, that if nothing else works, pick up something which gets me to travel and explore and be out there, kind of a thing. So something on that side, either some job or some exploration. Sadly, that time I couldn't figure out ways to pick up nature exploration or those kind of things to be as solid professions. But why not? I think I would have loved myself doing that kind of a thing.
Feels like you all have something in common there, as you're thinking about life paths. She's a certified diver, and at this age is trying to figure out what nature exploration is all about.
Yeah. My next what if question is sort of the opposite of what if the drones had never taken off. But what if the power of technology really progresses very fast in the next few years? How soon do you think there will be the flying cars?
I think some version of flying cars will be there very soon. In the next 5 to 10 years, you'll have... There already are some at testing level by different companies around the world. For them to be available to us as users, it's going to take some time, but not too far away. Very, very just around the corner kind of a moment.
It's interesting how your time scales change as you age, right? Because 5 to 10 years is around the corner. When I was growing up, 5 to 10 years felt like an eternity. Right? Like 5 to 10 years doesn't feel that long. I don't know about you, Kiara, but...
feels pretty long to me. In 5 years, I'll be 19. I'll be an adult.
In the scheme of the universe, what is a year but a drop?
True.
But let's move aside from yogic gyan to what if ideaForge didn't have the success it did? What if you did go under? What if you weren't able to sustain the hard times? How would you feel differently about your choices in any way?
Not really. I think we touched upon something like this in one of the earlier topics, that you enjoy the journey rather than the destination. So what is the destination of success of ideaForge? And we are oftentimes asked, is it a certain level of valuation? Sure, that's one of the metrics that people say. For me, at least my most important eventual motivation for an organization is to make it almost eternal, immortal, live beyond me. So if I can get it to a level where it can live beyond me, I think that'll be a great place. But in the process, if I know if I genuinely gave it my best, no regrets.
What if you were a 14-year-old today, with all that's changing with the world? What do you think you'd be most passionate about? Where do you see yourself?
I think that's the hardest question of the day. But I think just being curious about things, loving nature if you do, and things like that, those are sort of timeless in some ways. So while the world has changed a lot, but a lot of things haven't changed. So I would say similar things, nothing very different from my childhood. I used to think, 100 years back, world would have been so different, or 50 years back, world would have been so different. But then you end up hearing stories or seeing pictures or imagining the details there, and it doesn't feel so very different. While the conveniences would have been different, but the fundamental motivations of what drives us, what keeps us motivated, I think are very sort of timeless and eternal. So I don't think my choices would have changed too much even today.
I do have one more, Kiara, and this is maybe a fun one. You know, people may not all know this. I talked, you were on the football team. You were also on the modeling team. You walked the ramp, right? You've also appeared in a movie. Isn't that right? You've appeared in a movie. Have you seen the movie 3 Idiots, Kiara?
Yes.
And by the way, Kiara's horrible Hindi movie. It's like her favorite movie is Happy New Year. It's not a real movie. 3 Idiots, now that's a great movie. Your drone was in that movie. Right?
Yes.
Which was one of the early things that took you there. But you also had a cameo appearance. Right?
Yes.
If you go back and look closely, you're in it. So what if your acting/modeling career took off? Where would Rahul Singh be today?
I think that's the least likely thing to do because I'm so. My wife is an actor, and at times I struggle to give her the right cues. So naturally, I don't think I would have made that possible reality happen. But yeah, but I really like what actors and creative professionals are able to do. So I'm close to that from being excited about it, but I don't think I would have been great at it.
You were good on the ramp. I remember a few people from our class who wanted to make sure they showed up to see you there. But yeah, good segue to maybe move on, Kiara.
Yes.
What's next?
The next game we're playing is called our happiness rating game.
The way this works is we're going to list out a bunch of parameters. You're going to rapid fire rate them from 1 to 5 in terms of how important they are for your happiness. 1, not as important. 5, very important. Try not to make everything a 5 or a 1, but it's entirely your call. We'll keep it rapid fire. And we're very curious to just see how guests think about each of these differently. So we'll start with the first. Wealth.
2 to 3.
Fame.
Similar 2 to 3.
Health.
A 4 to 5.
Legacy.
4, 5.
Impact on people around you.
5.
Friendships and connections. Arvind may take this one a bit personally, but no pressure.
5.
No pressure, but good answer. And then finally, fun.
At least a 3 to 4.
Notice Rahul ranged everything, right? It's like, no, not 2, 2 to 3. Depends on the day. Could be 2 today, could be 3 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's reality.
Unfortunately, it ends at 5. There's no 6 to 7.
That's true.
Oh, someone said 6 to 7?
No.
Apparently,
It's a
some
Gen
new
Z
trend where
thing.
kids say something.
6, 7.
See,
It's a Gen Z.
I'm in sync.
So this is what they say apparently. But I have no idea. I think 6, 7 was the name of some wrestler who used to show up on shows that I used to watch. But so legacy, which makes sense. Impact, which you're absolutely doing.
Yeah.
And even as Rahul was talking, he was saying, company that outlives is eternal. And I can see how you think about legacy in that aspect. I can see how you think about impact in that aspect. And, friendship connection, I'll make this more a little bit about me, but just so lucky to have you as a friend, Rahul, and appreciate everything you've done for everything in work, actually, with the drones that are actually impacting lives, but also as a friend with often having a place for me to crash in when I come to Mumbai. So it was great having you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. I learned so much from you.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it was a refreshing conversation for me, and just to interact and see Kiara as a 14-year-old, what you're pulling off here, it's super impressive. So I'm happy and delighted to be part of this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul. And we are back. And before we get into our takeaways for the episode today, Kiara, I do think we need to discuss what is one of my favorite segments. I get to teach you a little something.
Yeah.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Here we go with the good old days.
In the good old days.
Have you ever heard of carrier pigeons?
No. What are carrier pigeons?
So in the good old days, even before my time, go to World War II, for instance, you didn't have drones. And sometimes people will need to get something from one place to another. So they would actually tie a little message on a small piece of paper to the leg of a pigeon.
Yeah.
And the pigeon would fly from one place to another, delivering that message.
Like a real life Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. It was a bird carrying a message. Although I think they call it X now. But let's not go there because we could do an entire different podcast about my exes.
Okay. Now that I think about it, carrier pigeons are a little bit like, the owls in Harry Potter, Hedwig.
That's right. Instead of owls, it's pigeons. And I found this interesting stat when I was looking this up. But apparently in Odisha, they were still using carrier pigeons and they still keep some now. But in the 90s and 99, when there was a cyclone, carrier pigeons apparently carried messages across because power lines were down and they just kept around as a backup. So they've stayed around a bit longer, but we have other options now.
I mean, what if they got distracted? Like, we often do on this podcast.
You kind of pray for the best and hope the pigeon stays. But the good news is today you have drones.
Yeah,
Thanks
better
to Rahul.
technology.
Much better technology. And thanks to someone like Rahul, hopefully that gets better, which is a great way to say, what was your biggest takeaway from today's podcast?
Well, Rahul talked a lot about, being curious, staying curious. And he is such a naturally curious person. I think that came across a lot today. Everything that he did was because, he wondered about something, so he decided to do it. It was more about that than anything else. And I think as a world schooler, the most important thing is to be curious. In today's world, there are so many distractions like social media. So his journey was very impactful to me. And he used the phrase, I've heard it before, but I really liked it. And it was, it's more about the journey than the actual destination. Because, the destination's death. But the journey is amazing.
I didn't know we would get morbid, but I actually had the same takeaway. So maybe it's okay to repeat once in a while, but I did really like his point on the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's about being in the moment. It's about being present there. You don't chase outcomes. You don't chase desires. Sure, like investors will talk about valuation. Someone will talk about revenue. And those are important. But just being on a path that is true to you, that is making an impact, that is making a difference, I feel that is where people are operating at their best. That's when they're in flow state. And that's where this authenticity that I mentioned about Rahul comes through, because he is very much about the moment and that journey. And so, I think really, really enjoyed that.
So that's all for today's episode. We'll see you next week with another episode of 14 going on 41. And stay safe, like drive safe until then, or fly safe, I guess. Yeah.
That's right. Peace out, party people.